We can all agree that the mere existence of identical twins is creepy, but is twin telepathy real? Find out as we plunge deep into the rabbit's hole, because this one goes twice as deep. Welcome back to Into the Rabbit's Hole with me, Macabre Brie, or whatever you want to call me. Brie is fine. Today we're talking about twins.
We're twins.
That's right.
And I've always had a deep fascination with identical twins because they're kind of an anomaly.
They're not morning people,
And then lo and behold, roughly 2 years ago, I gave birth to my own set of buy one, get one kids, identical twins, which the BOGO thing is a total misnomer because the second one is not free. Even when I went to my prenatal appointments, I was charged for 2 ultrasounds every time. And then, of course, you got double the diapers, double the tantrums. It's a handful. Although, I love them so much, and I couldn't imagine not having 2 of them. They're awesome, but they're also kind of creepy sometimes.
Come and play with us, Daddy.
And being vaguely aware of the whole twin telepathy phenomenon, I went deep down a rabbit hole on Reddit to see if other people had experienced the same sort of uncanny occurrences that I was starting to see with my own.
I just peed Andy's pants. Warm, warm, warm.
So what even are twins? I mean, they're nature's clones. Obviously, to go back to our elementary science, it's a single fertilized egg that splits into 2 just randomly. We don't actually know why that occurs, and we have a vague understanding of what causes it, but not really. So I am fascinated by what makes identical twins and how they're similar, how they're different. So having my own is kind of like a fun little anthropological experience inside my own home. And it blows my mind on the daily that these 2 boys that I know as very individual people, though they may look alike to most people because I can tell them apart, to think that they were ever a single entity and that they could have been one person if things had gone differently, just blows my mind. I can't even fathom it. Okay, so let's get into the weird. So on my deep dive, I came across probably hundreds of stories of twins feeling each other's pain.
He hit my leg with a rock so I could feel what he feels. You're welcome.
Say one twin is over here in Texas and the other twin is over here in Florida. And this one, the Texan one, has an accident, breaks his arm, and then the one in Florida has suddenly just a phantom pain in the same arm at the same time, and then later learns that his brother over here broke his arm. It's crazy. And then there's also the instance of a transferred pain where the one experiencing the trauma that should be reacting to this pain isn't, and that the one not experiencing the trauma is reacting to the pain.
Back to you, Andy. Back to you, Back to you, Andy.
I mean, I've witnessed that in my own twins with vaccination boosters. When they're little babies, they have to go to, I almost said vet appointments. They have to go to pediatrician appointments every couple of months and get more booster shots. And this happened time and again to the point where even my doctor commented on it. One twin would be getting his shot and then I'd be holding the other one. The one getting the shot would not react at all, and the one I would be holding would start crying the second that the other one got the shot, and he wouldn't even be looking at him. Then of course they'd switch back and then the same thing would happen the other way around. But yeah, so some of these stories about pain I shall share with you now. So this Redditor said, I am 100% sure that my mother has it with her twin. I recall multiple times growing up when my mother would stand up, walk to the phone, and pick it up before it rang because my aunt was calling. I also remember vividly when my mother doubled over in pain for no reason at all. She said, find out where your aunt is, something happened. I called my cousin and he said she was on a backcountry horseback trip. Come to find out, she fell from a cliff with her horse. The horse crushed her leg. It's impossible to play games with them, though I'm sure that some of that is due to their ability to read each other's body language, which I'll get more into the games in a little bit too. And then there is a famous case from Spain in the 1970s with twins Sylvia and Marta Landa. When one of the little girls touched her hand to a red-hot iron, she erupted in a major second-degree burn, an actual blister on her hand. At the same time, miles and miles away, her twin sister, who had no idea what was going on, erupted in the same way, on the same hand, the same blister, the same pattern. So this is weird stuff. This is jaw-dropping, one-mind type of phenomenon. And that's from a book by a medical doctor. So, interesting stuff. And there's a lot of these stories that are kind of similar in this way, and I feel like it passes the point of being just anecdotal coincidence because there's just so many of them. Another one. My mom strongly believes in twin telepathy due to the things she experienced when my older identical brothers were young. Many things happened, but I'll share two. When they were 3, she was feeding one brother, E, while the other, D, napped. E started struggling to get out of his high chair, calling out his twin brother's name. It made my mom suspicious, and when she went to check on him, she found the window to his bedroom open. He was laying in bed, but to this day, we don't know if someone opened the window to harm my sleeping brother. Another time, she had become suspicious of this gift and was purposely trying to test it, which I kind of want to do that too with my twins. Not to the point of like inflicting pain, but maybe exploring some of the like TikTok twin telepathy trends.
Put up a number 1 through 5. Oh my God.
So my grandma had taken E camping. D couldn't go because he had poison ivy. My mom told D that they had to go pick up E because he had fallen out of a tree and was hurt, to which D responded, "No, he's okay, mama." And my mom said, "How do you know?" And he responded, "Because I feel his magnet." What do that mean? I feel like kids often speak in troll under the bridge riddles, and there's like a kernel of truth in there that you can't really decipher because they don't have a full vocabulary yet. Could be a coincidence. As adults, they claim to feel nothing, though they wouldn't admit it if they did, which is something I see a lot with identical twins as well. They're trying so hard to build this individual identity that they balk at anything that makes them seem like a single entity with their twin, because people are constantly comparing them and contrasting them, you know, and they don't want to fall into that, which I understand. I would get that. And another Redditor says, when my twin and I were 4 or 5, he fell and split his eyebrow/forehead open. Apparently I cried and he just sat there. See? It happens. Next time my boys have to get booster shots, I think I'm gonna record it just to see if I can record some of this crazy happening in real time. And yet another, my mom. I'm not gonna do a British accent. I'm not gonna subject any of you to that.
Sisters, Hallie, we're like twins.
My mom swears the story is true, but because we were quite young, I can't remember it. One of us was going up the stairs and the other was playing in the living room. My mom was stood in the doorway of the hallway and the living room so she could see both of us. Whoever was on the stairs fell and banged their knee, but was fine. Instantly, the twin in the living room, who couldn't see the stairs and was unaware anything had happened, suddenly grabbed his knee and started crying. And then something I see that's incredibly common is feeling the twins' labor pains, which, if my assumptions are correct, there is something about experiencing physical trauma that maybe it's the nature of being a twin and having this person that is always, you know, almost a part of your very existence. Maybe there's some sort of like trauma transference, like you don't want to feel it, so you're just like sending it, you're yeeting it out into the ether, and then because your twin has the same physical makeup, they're just like absorbing it. Because a lot of these anecdotes seem to occur when there's some sort of unexpected or extreme physical trauma. And then obviously one of those things is labor, which is very traumatic on the body and the most intense pain that you can probably experience as a human being. Okay, this writer said, when I went into labor at midnight, my twin woke up with the worst period pain in her life, even though she was mid-cycle. She lived 900 kilometers away in a different state and called my bloke to ask if I was okay, which, like I said, could be some sort of like crazy ethereal transference. I mean, she obviously knew that her sister was close to giving birth, but it seems strange that she would wake up knowing that this was happening. And then the same thing seems to happen even if the twins are fraternal and of different sexes. So my cousins are also a male and female twin. While my cousin was in labor, her brother was at our house in so much pain. His back and stomach were cramping so bad he was screaming. I haven't seen him in that much pain ever. We finally got a call from his sister that she's at the hospital and had the baby with little to no pain. Well, gee, I wonder why. Your brother was having all the pain. They also do the same thing y'all did where they do the same thing at the same time often. It's a weird twin telepathy thing. So I think that we're getting this urban legend or whatever that twins experience telepathy because so many people have witnessed it that it becomes part of the cultural zeitgeist around the idea of twins. You know, there's a kernel of truth in every crazy idea, I feel like. On the darker side of the pain transference thing, this is something I've seen a lot too, is that when one twin dies, the other one feels it remotely. And I want to share these two anecdotes that are like eerily similar. So the first one, my grandmother was a twin and often told me this story. One day in 1977, she had a crushing headache behind her eye that came on quickly and she couldn't function and had to be carried to bed. She told my granddad to phone her twin sister who lived 200 miles away to check that she was okay, as she was convinced something terrible had happened. And it had. Her sister had died of a ruptured brain aneurysm at the same time my Nan's headache began, and behind the same eye. And then the story that is strangely similar. I'm a complete scientific skeptic and completely aware that there's nothing supernatural about this, that you know. But it's still very odd. Around the same time, the same hour that my twin sister died, I fainted for the first time in my life. I was not aware she had died. It was an aortic aneurysm, totally out of the blue. She was 23 and healthy. I was at work and just fainted. I wasn't sick, never fainted before. I just collapsed to the floor with no warning and was unconscious for around 5 seconds, I think. While I was sat being looked at by the first aider at work, I got called to go to the hospital as she'd been taken in. She had already died at home though. Worst day of my life. I can't even imagine. I actually hate telling people this because of the supernatural connotations, but there you have it. It was just an odd coincidence and I don't have any thoughts otherwise. Even asked the doctor about it, but not sure he actually believed me. I mean, if there is something supernatural going on between twins, or even something natural we don't really understand yet, maybe there is, you know, these two people are eternally linked because they were conceived together, they were born together, they spent much of their lives together. Maybe there's something linking them that when one just breaks off, the other one feels it, you know? And I feel like there's something quantum involved there. Still on the death thing, but maybe on a slightly more hopeful note. This Reddit comment says, "This is really interesting to hear because I was pregnant with twins and lost one, and my daughter made many comments about missing her brother. That, of course, freaked me all the way out, up until I got pregnant with my son. And before I knew I was pregnant, she came up to me, put her head on my stomach, and said her brother was coming back. When I tell you, the bond they have now is amazing," which is pretty cool. There's a few stories about kids coming back as twins. I recall a story about the Pollock twins. They were born a couple of years after their two older sisters died in a car accident. And one of the twins had a birthmark in the same spot that her older sister had a scar. And the twins could recall things from their older sister's lives that they had never experienced, like the school or the look of the town that the older sisters had grown up in that the twins hadn't seen yet. And their father was convinced that they were the reincarnation of their older sisters. I'm like a complete agnostic about a lot of this like woo-woo stuff. I don't know the answer and I don't pretend to know the answer. I'm not going to assume one way or another, but it seems strange that if reincarnation is a thing, that they would come back to the same family. But then again, I don't know anything about that, and I'm not going to pretend to know anything, and I'm not going to assume anything about what our ethereal forms choose or don't choose. I don't know. And of course, beyond just experiencing each other's pain, there are scores of stories about knowing what the other twin is thinking. So while some of these phenomenon can be attributed to the nature and nurture angle, it's something you even see in significant others and very close friends, parent-child relationships. I don't know, maybe there's something more going on there too. At my twins' graduation, we were in the middle of the very crowded stands and she couldn't see us. I looked straight at her, squinted, and thought really hard, "We're right here, look at us." And then she did, waving and smiling. This was right after my other sister told me to do that twin thing and get her attention. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know, if there is some sort of hive mind going on, it's cool to just be able to call across a room. And this one I thought was like super uncanny and cool, and I wish I had this superpower. During woodshop, my twin thought, "I wish I had sandpaper." I thought he had said this aloud and handed the sandpaper to him without saying anything. No one around us heard him say he wanted sandpaper, and is still one of our greatest moments. I can guarantee they do that kind of shit all the time and don't even realize it. I saw a lot of these stories in my research for this. One would just know what the other was thinking without any sort of context or hinting at what was going on, which is so cool. And then a number of these stories too, which once again could be the whole like being very similar human beings genetically and being raised by the same people at the same time and having the same genes. In high school, we took a quiz on the assigned reading we had done from To Kill a Mockingbird. One of the questions was, what did Scout dress up as for Halloween? A ham. My brother and I both included similarly drawn pictures of stick figures wearing ham costumes in the margin of the quiz. And then another twin said, one of the big things is communication through eye contact. While I can look at my friends or anyone else with expressions that display exactly what I'm feeling, with my twin, I can look at her and she'll know not just what I'm feeling, but why I'm feeling that way. And to be fair, there's so many moments where my twins, they're barely two, they don't have a lot of words in their vocabulary. they'll just stand and look at each other and smile and then laugh about nothing. And it's so creepy and interesting. I don't know if it's just a smile is contagious or if like they're telepathically sending some bullshit talking about me. I don't know. It's cute and it's funny and it's strange. And I am starting to see that this whole twin telepathy thing is indeed some sort of weird phenomenon we don't quite understand. Someone had a really interesting thought about twin telepathy from the perspective of a twin. As an identical twin, you grow and develop together. So while you aren't reading each other's minds, you do have an understanding of one another no one else can grasp because it's there from the start, and for me, a dependence. I feel like we are two halves, and if one of us is having a bad time, the other is as well. We live in different states now, and I feel I'm not a full person anymore, or that I ever was. That's a rare glimpse into maybe what it's like being a twin for some twins, because a lot of them don't experience much outside of each other for a good portion of their early lives. I really aim to see my boys as individuals and let them develop as individuals, but when a couple of twins are raised in the exact same environment, sometimes you will just automatically group them together and treat them as a single entity. And maybe that's why a lot of them develop that codependence. Okay, now let's talk about the twins that give other twins a bad name. There are a pair of twins. Well, there's a couple of pairs of twins that I saw on Extreme Sisters on the Learning Channel, which is hardly a bastion of learning anymore. But anyway, so there are these twin women from Australia that they sync everything in their lives perfectly. If one has a bite, the other one takes a bite. If one takes a shit, the other one takes a shit. They're so in sync down to the point that if one's getting a tooth pulled, the other one needs to have her tooth pulled even though it's a healthy tooth.
Girls have finally made a decision about their teeth. Lucy's decided that she's going to get a wisdom tooth taken out so that Anna can get an infected tooth taken out.
And even more so, they're dating the same man and they both want to have a baby by this man.
And Ben loves us for who we are.
Yes.
We've found someone that accepts us for who we are.
That's lovely.
You know?
They go beyond creepy and uncanny. They're just like, okay, yeah, they're creepy and uncanny. I wish I had a better way to describe them, but how do I say this? I would make a joke about them marrying each other, but to be honest, they'd probably be into that if they could make a baby together, because then it would just be another one of them. I feel like there's some other twins that are like that too. Some other twins you may have seen around the internet.
Brother,
And then, of course, there is the women who are twins that married another set of twins. Well, let's just take a look at what they're like.
They're the identical twins who married identical twins. They walked down the aisle together, tying the knot in a double fairy tale wedding. All moved in together, both having babies.
This is baby Jet, and this is baby Jack.
Blended family, all
living under one roof.
Those two, I feel like they have a serious codependency issue, and in fact, I hate to admit it, but I'm blocked by them on Instagram for saying that their future children were going to be very confused and that they were too codependent. I'm just expressing my views, man. My concern for their children, which, how are those kids not going to grow up in a very confused way? I mean, they're sharing a house with their parents and their aunt and uncle who all look the same, who are treating them as if they're all the parents of them. That's a huge mind to grow up with, and those kids are not going to grow up healthily. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And then we have the whole folie à deux situation that is famous with the Swedish twins that ran into traffic. These two, Ursula and Sabina Eriksson, in 2008, they had what's known as a folie à deux, a shared psychotic episode. They ran into traffic together on a highway, seemingly convinced that they were in some sort of conspiracy. One of them even committed a murder shortly after. And then the thing that I think is the coolest and strangest aspect of the twin telepathy thing. Apparently, a lot of identical twins, and fraternal even, share dreams on the same night. And one will be relaying the dream to the other in the morning, and then the other one will chime in with the exact details.
Bathroom to do your makeup. Oh my, you know what's so weird? I have dreams about that bathroom all the time. Swear. I swear to God, that's exactly what I was gonna say. And I always have dreams about that bathroom. I have weird things happening or like things happening. Like me being a mermaid in the bathroom or like me moving back and like the landlord's like, you can't go upstairs, but I go upstairs. Shut up. Exactly. I swear to God. Bobby moved into the house. Oh, we were still upstairs. Yes! And I was in the bathroom and she was knocking on the door. Oh my God!
That is like the craziest thing that I feel like I came across in this whole deep dive, because I've read about it multiple times that it seems too often to be a coincidence. Okay, let's look at some of the ones that I found. One Redditor said, I had a dream that my twin sister's cat died. She was crying intensely in my dream and held him. And I woke up the next day with a text from her telling me about how she had to put her cat down the night before. That's the most recent one. A few times we've had the same dreams on the same night. And this one I think is just kind of hilarious and weird. So I have an identical twin sister and we have plenty of stories, but one of the weirder ones. She was spending the night with me. We were 19 and living apart and sleeping in the same bed when we both woke up to us sitting up and high-fiving each other. We were sleeping back to back and for some reason we both sat up and high-fived. I mean, that's awesome. I wonder if they were sharing the same dream. It doesn't say whether or not they were, but so strange. And it seems that it even happens with higher order multiples, as they're called. Triplet here. We've only ever had one such experience. When we were kids, we all had the same dream. Nothing exciting, but it involves a red, white, and blue helicopter being in our backyard a few feet above the ground. Random as shit, but still fun to talk about every now and again. I will say, though, that having a sibling, two sisters in my case, of the same age creates a certain bond and allows you to pick up on certain cues and body language that others probably wouldn't notice. That's undoubtedly true, but to all have the same dream about something so out there it's eerie. It's cool. I'm gonna try to stop saying cool so much. A lot of these stories just kind of leave me flabbergasted, and I have no other words. And then another one, we've never communicated telepathically. The only weird experience we've had is back in high school, we shared a dream. I was talking about the dream the next morning to her, and she freaked out and started asking specific questions about the dream, like, were you wearing a red shirt, and so forth. The dream we shared that night was the exact same with all the details being specific. It was really cool, but never happened again to our knowledge. My aunt and dad were twins. My aunt woke up in the middle of the night from an odd dream. She even woke my uncle up to tell him about it. In the dream, my dad told her to take care of my sister and I. He told my aunt he was leaving and needed her to look out. She said the dream really shook her. That morning we found out my dad died in his sleep. The whole trauma of death thing rears its head again. I had a dream one night that I remember oddly vividly. I started explaining it to my sister when she stopped me and explained the rest of my dream. We had the same dream and remembered it as clear as day. Weird as I agree. And the whole dream thing, that's not just like a recent occurrence. So apparently John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, referred in his journal for April 2nd, 1781 to a young woman he knew who had a twin sister between whom and her there is so strange a sympathy that if either of them is ill or particularly affected at any time, the other is so likewise. This sympathy operated even when they were asleep, when both simultaneously dreamed that a disgruntled servant was planning to murder their mother, as he later admitted. So yeah, that was 1700s. So the idea isn't new. It's not some sort of effect of pop culture making us think that twins are some sort of, otherworldly thing. I mean, maybe there's something going on. Something also with the whole thinking the same thing I came across a lot were that playing games with twins is like often an unfair experience because of the whole mind-ready thing. One twin said, we were trying to decide who would have to do some chore. We first went by rock, paper, scissors and kept tying. The person in charge got tired of it and said, I'm thinking of a number 1 to 100. Say your number on the count of 3, 2, 1, 3. Us, 51. Again, same time. This was not planned, neither was the rock, paper, scissors. Wouldn't call it crazy, but rock, paper, scissors is fun. Without fail, it takes us about 5 attempts before we stop choosing the same move. Is that a nature-nurture thing, or is that a telepathy thing? Someone else said, seriously, I'm not making this up. We were playing a game of Pictionary. We were not cheating, just playing regularly. I drew 2/3 of a circle, and he blurts out, King Tut! And that was the answer. And someone responded, yeah, our friends and family never let us play games like that anymore. Pictionary, charades, anything like that. They always accuse us of using twin powers. Watching my twin sons playing rock, paper, scissors is one of the funniest things ever. I've seen them go until they are both laughing so hard they can't keep playing. Maybe that'll be the subject of one of my experiments with my boys. Although they seem like two very, very different people, so I feel like they would choose different things. Also, I think they might be mirror twins, which is where they're like essentially a mirror image of each other. One right-handed, one left-handed, opposite facial features. So We'll see. I don't know. They're only 2. Okay, time to get scientific, or at least pseudoscientific about this all. I had the completely unoriginal theory that maybe there's this weirdness between twins because there's some sort of quantum entanglement happening. So I Googled it and asked AI about it just to see if this was a thing that people had explored, and apparently it is. Let's first go with reasons why it could be quantum entanglement. So twins literally start out as the same organism, and in quantum mechanics, particles that originate from the same system can stay entangled. So if, I don't know, a photon can do it, why can't 2 developing human brains? I don't know the answer to that. Comment if you know it. And then apparently quantum biology is a thing that is being learned about. So birds navigate using quantum entanglement. Plants use quantum tunneling and photosynthesis. Enzymes use quantum weirdness to speed up reactions, which is quantum weirdness a real term? If nature is out here like quantum hacking in reality, maybe twins are doing the same thing unknowingly. The thing that turned me onto this idea was how entanglement defies distance, and that's what we're seeing a lot in these anecdotes. So physics experiments, entangled particles respond to each other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. And maybe identical twins are just doing that, but with like their brain waves. Let's get into the reasons why it's probably bullshit. So I went into this thinking that I was onto some like groundbreaking idea, but the internet has told me that I'm an idiot, and I hate to agree, but I think I'm kind of an idiot. So quantum decoherence ruins the whole theory. So apparently entanglement is a very fragile thing. Once particles interact with their environment, the connection just completely shatters. Human bodies are way too chaotic and complex for quantum state to last past the embryonic stage. Why? Why do we know that? How do we know that? And then, of course, there's no scientific proof for any of these stories. Like, the preeminent researcher on twins says that it's all bullshit, and that it's just coincidence, and the fact that they're raised together. And when they're not raised together and they have these weird phenomena happen, it's because they're genetically identical and they're likely to choose the same things or behave similar ways or have similar mannerisms. And plus, like, if this was real, like, I feel like the CIA would be all over this by now. But, you know, they probably are. I don't know. I'll have to do some digging on that. So now with my own twins, what have I experienced other than what I've told you so far with the booster shots and the looking at each other thing? I feel like they are already on some psychic because there's so many moments where they just seem to be thinking the same thing. They do seem to have their own language, not like explicitly where you can hear certain phrase or babbling or whatever that is mirrored by the other one, but they seem to understand each other when no one else does. And then there was something specific I remember when they were really little. I was holding both of them at the same time, which is something I often did. And one was asleep and the other one was awake. And the one that was awake, I just kind of tickled him and was playing with him. And the one that was asleep laughed. And it's not like he could hear him because the one I was tickling wasn't making any noise. And then something that I haven't really read about being a thing, but is so strikingly true about my boys is that so they switch personalities regularly. So one day one is chill and the other one's wild, and then the next day they swap. And they do this back and forth all the time. And it's been like that since they were itty bitty babies. One would be really fussy and colicky one day while the other one was chill. And then a couple days later they would swap. And I don't know, it's so crazy because people that would recognize them by certain behaviors couldn't recognize them a few days later because they had swapped their personalities. So if we're in some sort of simulation or something, and that's why twins are a glitch in the matrix or whatever, maybe it's a firmware update or something. So, I mean, is twin telepathy real? Probably not in a literal sense, the way you would see it in pop culture, but science doesn't really understand consciousness yet, and quantum mechanics is still, you know, a question. I mean, it's understood, but it's also not. Maybe we just don't understand how this connection is working. Like I said, they came from one single entity, so maybe there's something there. Maybe twins are just connected in a subatomic way that we don't understand yet. Or, you know, maybe their brains are running the same software. Either way, I am keeping my eye on my own tiny little clones. I haven't started a research project yet, but I should. If they ever start finishing each other's thoughts, or worse, my own thoughts, I'm probably gonna, you know, get an exorcist or something. So I'm interested in these anecdotes. So if you have any anecdotes of your own, if you're a twin or you know twins or you've seen some weird, crazy twin I would love to hear about it. Maybe I'll write a book about twins one day or get my boys to, because they have the inside track on what it's like being a twin. Yeah, so some more weird and interesting deep dives next week. If you want to see that, then like and subscribe. Bye.